Hey everybody, welcome back to Adam Makes Beer. My name is Adam and today we are doing part 4 of our Rauch Beer Smokestack Brew Day. This is the wrap up where we're going to be going through the tasting and through the recipe and really kind of giving you all the information on the things that we did this beer. Maybe you can make a little smoked beer for yourselves at home. So, I got a can of this beer right here. Yeah, all right, looks really nice. Nice and clear. This is drinking out of the U.S. Open Beer Championship glass that we got this year. But anyhow, you can see that the color issues really did sort themselves out. A nice deep golden with this beer. And we did have to water back that kettle a little bit in order to hit that color. So I was pleased with how that turned out. We did use that Tetra hop product that helps to increase foam stand with the beer. And you can see on this, it kind of sticks around really nice and stays nice and creamy. So I've been really pleased with how that's been going. We have a nice bright beer, a nice big foam stand on top of it that sticks around. And that's just some of those intangibles that make, I don't know, that beer, it just gives it that X factor. It's just the extra little plus, right? So let's jump into this recipe. And we broke it down pretty deep with the percentages. So first of all, 57.6% Weyermann Barca Pils. We used 110 pounds of Weyermann Beechwood smoked malt at that's 19%. We used Briess Cherry Smoked Malt at 13.9%. We used a little bit of Malt Europe Munich 1 at 9.5%. And we used just 1% of roast barley. This beer is fun because you get a very particular type of smoke off of, out of these malts. It's not necessarily like you would be thinking about smoke as in like barbecue. But the way I like to say it with this Beechwood smoked malt, because I think that it does kind of lead the way a little bit, that cherry smoked malt does kind of bring like an interesting smoke sweetness to it. But that Beechwood smoked malt just has a really unique woodiness to it, okay? It's not like campfire necessarily, but it's really pleasing, and especially in a nice pale Helles style smoked beer, Rauch beer, I think it makes it really approachable. But you do get those nice smoky aromas coming off, but you also get like some light malt coming in behind it, like some bready, a little bit of sweet honey. It's very inviting. On the palate, up front, I think you're first hit with the malty, bready sweetness of the beer, and then that smoke runs right up. It kind of peaks out kind of in the mid palate. And to me, it's not super dominating because it's not the most aggressive use of smoke malt that we can do. Some of these smoke beers have 100% smoke malt. This is kind of a medium-low approach with the smoke on this, which I think makes this beer very accessible. The beer does still finish a little bit on the dry side, and that comes through mostly because we did mash this beer at 150 degrees to kind of create more fermentable sugars to bring that residual sweetness of the beer down. The smoke does linger a little bit into the finish, but it does continue to tail off. It's not like it's a smoke flavor that just starts building and building as you drink it. That's kind of what I prefer for a beer like this, because I'm not crazy about smoke in beers, but I'm pretty pleased with where this beer is. Continuing with the recipe, we're targeting a starting gravity of 1052. And then as far as hopping and bitterness goes, you don't want to go super bitter with a beer like this. Me personally, I feel like if you stack that bitterness too high up, you can kind of create a situation where that bitterness and the smoke are combining and maybe getting a little unpleasant. So I'm using 23 IBU in this beer, all at 60 minutes. And for this beer, we used Saaz hops for that. We did run this beer off, so we knocked out of the kettle at 50 degrees into the fermenter. And then we used a great big awesome lager pitch, which for us is 4.4 pounds per barrel. I would recommend, if you're brewing this on a homebrew scale, just pull up a good yeast calculator, punch your numbers in, and then make an appropriate starter for a beer like this. I really do think that's important. I used harvest lager yeast from Imperial, as always. It's my kind of favorite, easy to use, super versatile lager strain, and I don't think you're gonna beat Imperial. They're great people. They give a great product, and they give super high pitching rates, so I'm a huge fan of them. What I did water-wise with this beer is I did use food-grade phosphoric acid to push the pH of my mash down to 5.35. And I also did adjust the pH of my sparge water down to 5.5 as well. I think that's really key in these lighter lagers and these paler lagers. I think it's key in all your beers. But getting your pH right is really going to make sure that it's really going to help you make sure that you're getting a smooth malt character and not pulling harsh tannin out of the grain that you can if and when your pH starts getting above 6 in your sparge. I did carb this beer up to 2.7. I like these beers to be brighter, effervescent, to push those smoke aromatics out with the carbonation out of the glass to come rise and meet your palate. I think that's a really good way to go when you're trying to push aromatics for a beer. And I just think it works pretty well with lager in general. Also, before I forget, this is primarily a Pilsner malt beer, and so I did use a 90-minute boil to make sure I'm knocking out all of my DMS. And yeah, with all of our lagers, we're giving them more and more time cold. I do go ahead and pitch at 50. Usually around day 3, I'll allow it to ramp up to 52. Day 5 or 6, I'll allow it to go up to 55. Then a couple days after that, I'll take the top off to 65 and let it finish up there. It's just a good way to keep the fermentation vigorous while keeping your lager yeast in a range, in a temperature range will not produce a lot of esters. But that temperature ramp up really helps to push that fermentation along, potentially push more sulfur out of the beer, any sulfur that might be produced, and kind of push you through a little bit faster through that VDK or diacetyl rest. And then we're getting that beer cold, and we're really trying to keep them cold, 33 degrees, for 5 to 7 weeks. And I think it really does play a huge role in getting these beers really where they want to be. So anyways, that's really the breakdown on this beer. I was excited to show you the full Brewday process, and also when some things popped up that we didn't expect, kind of some troubleshooting type things with having a little too much color, a little too much sugar density in the kettle, how we approach that. I hope that's helpful for you. If you're getting any value out of these videos, we would really appreciate a like, a subscribe, and a share to all of your brewing/craft beer friends. We appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Bye.